A quick introduction to Madison's new school superintendent and then a dive into the work ahead this morning on For the Record. Good morning, I'm Neil Heinen. I'm well aware that this is Jen Cheatham's first visit to For the Record since beginning her job as Madison school superintendent on April 1st, so we'll take a few minutes to allow you to get to know her. But the reason she hasn't been on the show before is she's been working hard and long at creating a strategic plan for the district, a process that has included dozens and dozens of meetings, a team of outside advisors, and school visits, among other activities. But she's got a framework ready, just in time for school board budget deliberations. I welcome to For the Record Madison School Superintendent Jen Cheatham and Madison School Board President Ed Hughes. Ed, thanks for coming back. Nice to have you on again. And Jen, welcome.
Thank you, Neil.
Again, you know, I feel like you've been out so much that everybody in the city knows you already, but let's assume there are people watching who don't know you. And tell us, by way of introduction, sort of how you are finding our city and our schools in your first couple of months here.
That's great. Thanks, Neil. Yeah, I started April 1st, April Fool's Day.
Right.
And I'm just loving it so far. I moved here from Chicago, as you well know, with my husband and our 14-month-old toddler. He just moved into toddlerhood.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we're just loving it so far. We feel like this is the best decision we've made. As far as my impression of the school system, I'm also equally thrilled. I'm loving the job so far. I'm working my butt off, yeah. But it's the best work that I've ever been engaged in. So it's been wonderful so far.
You know, I mean, I'm just gonna set this up and ask you if how accurate it seems to you. I think particularly people without kids in the schools would describe our schools as a place where there are a high percentage of kids who are very successful and families that are very happy. There are too many kids that are not successful and their parents are not happy. Yeah. And then there's the attendant issues of making the choice to be in Madison schools or not, and the kind of politics surrounding it. And the politics often gets all of, you know, sucks all the air out of the room. Sure. But that's sort of the broad image. How does that fit with your image coming in and your experience now after these first few months?
It's a great question. I do think that we have children and families who are having dramatically different experiences with the schools. There's no doubt about it. After having visited every school, talked with plenty of parents and community members about their experience, it's interesting how dramatically different some of our families are experiencing the schools. With that said, we're not a school district in crisis. We have an extremely strong foundation. My personal test when I visit any school is this a place that I would want my own child to attend? Is this a place I would want my nieces and nephews to attend? And our schools pass that test for me every time. So I feel that we've got a really strong foundation. We've got excellent teachers and principals. One of the things that I look for immediately in schools and in districts is the talent. Do we have the quality of educators in our system to get the job done? And I actually think that we have the talent to do that. So that's exciting. I think that we've got some incredibly promising programs in some of our schools that have the potential to be brought to scale and have a major impact across all of our schools. So that's exciting. And our students have access to things like the arts, which I haven't seen in some of the other school districts that I've worked in, which I also think creates a strong foundation for our work. We can build on those strengths. Yeah. Yeah. But we have some challenges. There's no doubt about it.
Ed, give me your perspective on these first 4 months.
The school board was the first group really in the district to get excited about Jen, because we were the first ones to meet her in the hiring process when we were searching for a new superintendent in February. And as you may recall, there were a few bumps in the road in that process. But for the board internally, we were thinking, oh, this is great. because we were getting to know Jen and could see what she would bring to the district and what a great fit she would be. And then we went out and talked to principals in Chicago and other people who had worked with her and just got rave reviews.
They talked to a lot of people.
Yeah.
They would call me
Due
afterwards.
diligence.
Right, so there's been sort of this spreading sense of excitement, I think, across the district. And to your point, Neil, about where our schools have been, I mean, as you know, we do have great teachers, and they've been beaten down a lot in the last couple of years. And so we're in a position now, I think, sort of a unique position for Madison, where everyone is ready to be led.
Yeah.
People want to say, where are we going? We're going to come with you, but you tell us where you're going. So we need an effective leader to get there. And fortunately, Jen seems to be that leader. So it's really an exciting time right now, I think, for all of us.
Has this found its way into teacher morale and that kind of stuff at this point?
Well, I'm not the best position to speak about that, but I think Jen can talk about the group that was put together to flesh out the framework and how that went.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that already we're starting to make a turn when it comes to the morale of people at every level of our system in Madison. And I believe strongly that students aren't going to be able to be successful and really thrive in the classroom if the adults, the professionals, aren't also thriving professionally. I think people are hearing that message. I think that our teachers and other educators are feeling heard. They haven't felt heard for a while. And we worked with a group of about 60 teachers, principals, central office leaders to develop our new framework, which I know I'll talk about in a few minutes. And I think that was a really inspiring process for them.
But Neil, can I add one thing? Another very important point is that Jen is raising the bar for all of us. She's inculcating a culture of excellence across the school board, and we can see that on the school board across the school district. Right. And we can see that on the board. We're all saying, oh, we got to raise our game a little bit, because suddenly the level of the work is higher, the expectations are higher, and that's going to spread across the district as well throughout the organization. So it isn't just everyone feeling better about their work, it's doing better work. And it seems like that's kind of where we're headed as well. So that again is part of what makes it an exciting time, where we're all doing our best work and being held accountable for that and getting the support to do what we all need to do in the service of student success.
Well, we've mentioned the framework that was introduced this week, and we're going to come back and describe it right after this. We're back with new Madison School Superintendent Jen Cheatham and Ed Hughes, who is the president of the Madison School Board. Every superintendent has had a plan, to be sure, and in fact, sometimes the results of that have been what I think you've accurately described as initiative overload, and that kind of what you've heard. Yeah. So what is the framework? Why is it different? What was your thinking about creating this?
I wanted to create something that would stand the test of time. So you're going to see that it's not a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. It is the framework. And it really draws the major lines in the sand about what we're going to focus on as a district moving forward. As I mentioned before, the way we created the framework was through using all the data that I'd collected during my first couple of months on the job, through school visits, talks with families and community members. We used the data and recommendations collected through that expert team that I brought in, the transition team of national experts, which was incredibly helpful. And we processed all that information with this group of educators, teachers, principals, central office leaders, to make some decisions about what was really going to take our district to the next level. So the framework, do you want me to go
Please,
through it
describe it. Yep,
I'd
like that.
So it's anchored on a pretty simple vision that we want every school to be a thriving school that prepares every child for college, career, and community after graduating from high school. So bold, but pretty simple.
College, career, I think that, we understand that. What's community?
we had a big conversation about what it really means to be ready for life after high school. And we know that it's more than just about academics. Academics are important. We want students to be critical thinkers, but we want them also to have the social and emotional skills to be able to navigate life out in the real world. We want them to be culturally competent. These are the skills it really takes to be ready for college and career, but also to be full participants in the community.
Citizens, learning how to be
That's
citizens.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that originally when we talked about the vision, it only included college and career. But as we were having this conversation about our future, several people really pushed us on this idea of community readiness, and that seems to be of particular value here in Madison.
It feels like part of the 21st century world that our
That's
kids
right.
are in.
That's right.
As we have this debate about whether you can be successful without going to school or whether school's essential, all that stuff. Does the framework ring true to you, Ed?
It does, Neil, and the community readiness is really a critical part of it, and it highlights one of the advantages of our Madison schools, which is our diversity. Our students have the benefit of going to school with students from all kinds of backgrounds, different races, different socioeconomic backgrounds, coming from different countries. And so through that, they do inherently develop the sort of social and emotional skills that Jen was mentioning, the cultural competence that prepares them as well with their academic background to come out and be able to thrive in the 21st century world you described.
Yeah. Now, I'm assuming that in order for this framework to really be successful, you're going to need buy-in from from staff, from teachers, from parents,
Oh, yeah.
and from citizens without kids in the schools. Explain how you're going to accomplish that without people saying, it's just another plan.
I think we're already doing that. I mean, it's been part of the process since day one. We've been working really hard at bringing everyone along really with me on my journey into the district. So I think, for example, after I actually all the way through my listening and learning phase, those first couple of months on the job, we were sending updates out to families and community members, to our teachers and staff broadly, to let them know what I was learning along the way. That was important to me because I wanted a reality check. Like, is what I'm learning, does it ring true to people? And it was really exciting because people would email me and call me up and say, Jen, you're right on, we need more focus. We need to focus on teaching and learning, get away from all these laundry lists of programs. And it helped me know that I was on the right path. So we're going to continue to do that. I think that's the strategy. Lots of communication, lots of checking in with people to make sure that the work makes sense to them, and ultimately whether or not it's really taking hold. The core values that undergird the framework, I think, are probably important for me to highlight because they really emerged from all of my initial conversations with teachers, parents, community members.
What are they?
I'll just highlight a few of them. The first is about focus. We haven't been as successful as we'd like to be as a district, I think in large part because we haven't remained focused on a few critical strategies for a sustained period of time. And because we keep changing the strategies and changing our list of priorities, it's actually prevented teachers and principals from doing the day-to-day work of talking about what children need and providing those services. So that's the first biggie. The second is about teaching and leadership. We know that if we're going to really narrow and close the achievement gap, that teaching is going to have the most impact on how students experience their schools. And sometimes our work as a district, I think we've pulled the focus away from helping teachers actually instruct better and meet the needs of all learners. So we're going to return the focus to teaching in the classroom. And we know that great teaching isn't going to happen without excellent principals in every one of our schools. I think the third that I would highlight is something that Ed mentioned, which is a culture of excellence. We've got to make sure that every decision we make, everything we do, all of the words that we utter are precise, that they have integrity, and ensure that everything we do is serving parents and their children in the best possible way. So that we're going to live those core values moving forward.
Without getting into all of the detail, because I'm sure there's a great deal of it, but just give us an idea of what it looks like to help teachers do what you want them to be able to do.
Yeah, I will. I think first of all, I want to highlight something that I think is really different about the approach that we're taking. We believe that it is the school that is the driving force of reform in our district, and that it's not about the central office trying to mandate and micromanage from the top what should be happening in every classroom. So we're going to first of all make sure that principals, in conjunction with teachers on a school leadership team, are developing a very targeted school improvement plan, which isn't going to sound very exciting, but it isn't something that we've had consistently across the district. We're going to support schools in developing a plan that's research-based, aimed at measurable goals, and then we're going to build our support around that plan. That's really different for our school system. The second is that we're going to provide, while every school will have a unique school improvement plan that is aimed at meeting the needs in their particular schools, because they know their children best, we will provide consistent support across all schools when it comes to the basics, the nuts and bolts of teaching and learning. That means helping teachers better learn how to plan their instruction aligned to standards. We're really going to be diving into the new Common Core state standards that the state has adopted. The second is really providing teachers with the tools to better instruct in a way that meets the needs of the diverse learners that are in their classroom. So we haven't really defined good teaching in Madison to date. We need to define it and then really support teachers in learning how to use those strategies well. And then the third is about better utilizing data. And I don't mean big standardized test data. I mean the student work that a teacher collects from week to week to really drive the decisions that they make in the classroom. I think if we help teachers do those three things, better plan, better teach, better use data to make adjustments to their instruction, all students in our system will benefit.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit about getting the whole community on this bus when we come back right after this. I'm back with Madison School Superintendent Jen Cheatham and Madison School Board President Ed Hughes. What we've experienced in the last few years, Jen, as you know, in this community is a bit of a splintering. I think it felt like maybe it was more so 6 months ago than it does now, and that may be a tribute to your work here, but there were a lot of different plans being proposed. And a lot of it was to get at this achievement gap that we've been so familiar with and that Schools of Hope was formed to address. How have you done, particularly with communities of color, but in bringing folks together into the framework and addressing the achievement gap in that?
I feel fortunate in some ways to have arrived when I did, because as you mentioned, about a couple of years ago, a conversation started, I think a really challenging conversation for our community began around what has been called the achievement gap. And I think that because of that conversation, while very challenging, it's just made everyone really aware and created an urgency in Madison that is extremely helpful for me, because we need that urgency in order to move this work forward in a meaningful way. I do think, did you want to say something?
It certainly affected the school board's decisions with regard to what we were looking for in the superintendent. I mean, it really did kind of set the stage for these are the challenges we face. And so when we're hiring a new superintendent, we need someone who's equipped to deal with an urban school district and students of varying levels of achievement. And Jen has a great background for that, which was one of the things that really stood out for us.
Thanks, Ed. And I just want to make sure everyone knows that the issues of gaps in student achievement and opportunity gaps for students is front and center for us. We've designed our entire framework and our approach for the future around making sure that every child graduates from high school, because not every child is graduating right now, and that's alarming. But not just graduating, but getting ready for college and career and community, as we mentioned. But I believe strongly, and I think that there's plenty of evidence to show that focusing on teaching and learning, sustaining that focus over the long haul despite the myriad of things that may try to distract us, that's how you get results in student achievement. That's how you narrow and close gaps.
This past week you talked to the Rotary and you told them that we have the tools in our community now to deal with that. Talk about that.
I feel strongly about it. I've never seen anything quite like it. I think that our school board, for instance, is united in a way that I haven't seen. It's just a major asset for us as a school system. If we're going to make progress, we need a strong, stable, and reform-minded school board. And I think we have one. I think that because we've had this difficult conversation about the achievement gap, that parents, community members are really ready to step up in a united way and do what it takes. I know I've had a chance to talk with our community leaders on multiple occasions, as you know, Neil, and I'm inspired by how ready they are to really align their efforts to the work of the district. And I think the most important thing, and I want to always remind people that, we've got 27,000 students who all have dreams of a bright future. We need to work on making those dreams come to life.
We've struggled forever with this idea of acknowledging the many wonderful things about our schools and promoting them while at the same time acknowledging that we've got some issues. Well, I mean, we're still there, but it feels like maybe we can get off the wheel a little bit, acknowledge the problems, and talk about the excellence of our schools and that they're a place where people want to have their kids.
You're right, Neil. I think that as Jen is kind of leading the path forward, and leadership really matters in this, and I think that that's one of the things that we're really excited about. People are realizing, we can actually do this. We can have the kind of schools that we want. And as you know, public education's been under pretty sustained attack, both in Wisconsin and across the country. And what we want to do is say we can be a model of a thriving urban school district that's built on genuine partnerships with the community and genuine collaboration with teachers.
I got to wrap it up, Ed. Thank you very much. Jen, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Neil.
We'll be back in just a second. Our thanks to Superintendent Cheatham and Ed Hughes for being here this morning. Next week, we'll be joined by the director of the Henry Vilas Zoo. We'll be talking about what they say are the zoo's biggest changes in its 100-year history. That's next week. We'll see you then.